Resources meeting. It's March 21st, 2024. The time is 10:02 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan. Are there changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Public comment. Hearing none. Our first item is additional full-time employee request, and this is additional duty clerk position with our Adult Misdemeanor Probation Department. Director Hutchison.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Oh, turn your mic on. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you doing today? Thank you for taking your time to listen to me while I bring this forward. I'm asking for a full-time duty clerk position mid-year here because of several issues that are going to happen to put a strain on our department, and it's a need that we came back to after thinking many months of how we could fix some things that are going on. Currently, we're down one PO. We'll be testing for that position, and we hope to have them hired by June 1st with going through the backgrounds. We have a second PO position that's going down, moving on, so we have to go through the hiring process. Hopefully we can get that person hired by July 1st. Why we're trying to shoot for those days is because we only have one academy a year. It's in August. So when we send everybody out, send those two out, they come back at the end of August. It'll take 5 months, depends on the curve. What they can do is to get them back up and running. So again, it was like the numbers we're hitting. Like currently, we're at 1,275 probationers. We didn't drop down in the winter months at all. We went up, and in that aspect of it, having that in mind, instead of asking for another PO to try to perpetuate the cycle, we haven't added a position to our front desk area or our admin in approximately like 19 years. So when we looked at it, and I was like, just thinking on the conservative end, if I could bring somebody in at a grade 3 instead of a grade 9 and fill that duty desk position, which is currently held by, we staff it with a PO. If I can take and have a 40-hour employee put there instead of the 50 hours that we're putting there now with a PO and put that PO back on the street, it will help us tremendously. Currently, last year we did right around 1,200 home visits. And I think that's really good what's going on. We at the bottom of the memo that I have that I've submitted to you and to the great officers behind me, the 3 officers you see behind me who have been here over 5 years, our recidivism rate is down at 14.5 and 14.6. The 14.5 is 5 years, 14.6 is 3 years. The officers are doing a great job, but I have to keep them going out in the field. And they'll say, well, what numbers do I compare that to? If you even just Google search it, the Idaho Department of Corrections recidivism rate is 36.9%, and the national is 44%. So we're doing something correctly. And some of the things that they're doing correctly is like the innovative thought of yesterday. A couple of officers had like split days where they had more people coming in the morning and nothing in the afternoon, some coming in the afternoon. So both of those teamed up, went out in the car and actually did their home visits out in the field instead of having a person come in. And those people were really appreciative of that because it freed them up. So they're developing some great strategies on how to do that. But I got to get the POs off that duty desk. But we need somebody there. The duty desk, we have 20 to 40 check-ins a day, where people are coming in to visiting and stuff. And then we get the check-ins from the courts also. So again, the contacts at that front desk are 40 to 50 a day, possibly, if not higher sometimes. So putting a grade 3 position there I thought would be financially smarter and more conservative to do. So that's why I'm asking for the position. I just brought the officers with me because I want you guys to see the people who are actually doing the work. And my admin has been here for 2 years, and she's well behind this and developing this whole position. Do you have any other questions for me?
Bill, questions? Okay, Bruce, questions?
I just wonder why it's taken so long.
Well,
and let me explain why.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
Because when you run a department, you want to make sure that the $20 an hour people are doing $20 an hour work,
Yep.
and that the $40 an hour people are not doing $20 an hour work.
Correct.
Because if your success is defined by the probation officers being out in the field,
Yes, sir.
then anything that takes away from that, they should not be doing.
Yes.
So I'm completely for that approach to management.
Well, it kind of took time because recidivism and everything wasn't really monitored until we came on board and we sat down as a group and saying, who's coming back? So it took us to get to the 5 and 3 year mark, and the 5 and 3 year mark was in December of this year. So that's why, wanted to tell you, I was like, because I couldn't come to you and just because. Because you want numbers and you need to know, and you got to be able to justify it to the taxpayers.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, having probation officers do reception duties is
Yeah.
just not their job. And my hope is that throughout the balance of the county, we can have management look at, well, what are we doing with the higher paying, higher responsibility employees?
Correct.
And are we forcing them into more administrative type positions that they shouldn't be doing? So this is exactly what I consider to be good management policy.
Thank you. Comes from my good officers. They're good people sitting behind me.
All right. Motion?
I move that we approve the additional FTA request for the additional duty clerk position with adult misdemeanor probation.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. I just have a question for Brandy. Does this come out of the mid-year wage pool then? Like,
We showed that it was only a net, it was actually a net savings, it's pretty much net neutral, because they said they won't fill their open position until June.
right.
So kind of based off that data. there's
For
no-
FY '25 though, does
For
that,
FY '25 is a tax supported position. There's no mid-year wage pool yet for FY '25.
so I understand that, but like we're already levying for that 400,000, that's the mid-year wage pool. So does that go down when we start looking at next year's budget?
So next year's budget starts at what people are making right now. So next year's budget, right now, there's no mid-year wage pools, it's just gonna be what these people are making right now. And this new position, it'll be budgeted at the grade step 5, until they fill it, it'll get a step the person.
Okay, so let me rephrase it a different way. In years past, when we have approved mid-year positions, it already dipped into our 3% that we can collect next year. Do you understand? We're approving things now.
So if you're asking what percentage of property tax increase this exact position is, I would have to go calculate
Yeah.
our $59 million tax base
Yeah,
against a $26,000 position.
yeah, no, I'm not quite asking for that detail. I'm just saying that because we have these mid-year, this mid-year wage pool, it's not dipping into our 3% for next year because we still are now assigning this position instead of having, like in the past, where we didn't have the mid-year wage bill. In the past, everything we approved mid-year dipped into that 3% going forward. But now it's not because we have that mid-year wage pool, is just what I'm trying to clarify.
Are you referring to the $400,000 cushion that we have?
Yeah.
So we had a,
Pool was levied for.
Right.
So next year, our levy base is just gonna be our starting point, and we're not gonna budget a pool unless it's.
Correct.
This is just gonna build into our tax purpose for
Right,
next year.
yeah. I can talk more offline about it, but just in the past, everything we did mid-year started to incrementally take away that 3%. And so by the time we went into budget season, we already knew we were obligated to a tax increase because of the mid-year things that we approved.
And you'll see that, because when we present the budget, we'll show this is your starting pay budget.
Mm-hmm.
And like mid-year asks like this will be included in that at the full FY '25 rate.
Okay. Okay, thank you, thank you.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Where's your dog?
Hopefully just snoozing in his kennel, but he's probably pacing around a
And what's his name? Yes, that's right. He was throwing his toy for him on the back lawn there. And he's just a sweetie. And I said, could I pet him? And he threw the toy in the van with me. And the dog goes,
He's getting old now, so
how old is he? Very cool. Nice dog.
All right, item 2, reclassification with the Assessor's Department, and I think HR is going to take this one? Yes, we did.
Yes.
We did. That's okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sylvia Proud for the record. The assessor's office asked us to look at a position for reclassification, and after the HR conducted the Korn Ferry review of the position, we are proposing that the board adopt moving the Clerk 3 appraisal from a grade 4 to a Tech. It's going to be a Tech 2 specialized appraisal at a grade 5. And we did evaluate this through our Korn Ferry job evaluation system.
Okay. Questions?
Is this person moving up or down on the scale?
The person will move up by a grade. Now, typically what would happen, we would have the request today as a two-step process. HR would present the reclassification, and then Dyson or Bela would come forward and ask for a pay adjustment, but that's not on the agenda, so we're going to ask Dyson to bring it forward at the next HR meeting with a pay adjustment retro to approval of this new grade.
Okay.
They do have Tech 2 positions in the residential side, so this aligns for the commercial side.
Okay. Is it possible to bring it forward on the business meeting? Because I'm concerned if we wait all the way till the next, which is April
April 3rd or 4th.
I think
those few
April
days.
4th. Is that going to cause a retro issue in payroll? So that's what I
What
want.
what would you prefer?
Okay, all right. So
Okay,
if we can get it on Tuesday's business meeting, then that would be great.
Okay.
So bring that forward.
All right.
So, yeah, so I just do want to point out to the board again that this reclassification does partner with an increase in funds, which I don't think that we have a projection at this point, so.
yes, for the position conversion, there is a projection for it. Fiscal year 24 is considered budget neutral, but it says fiscal year 24 as an increase. Brandy, do you or Errol want to cover this? And then fiscal year 25 would be a $4,000 increase.
It's an increase in FY '24, but the increase is covered by salary.
Okay.
Okay, so essentially, it's a $4,000 increase for FY '25.
For fiscal year 25, correct.
Okay. All right, questions?
I would like to see Bela come in.
For the next request?
Yeah, when we're doing this on Tuesday.
Okay.
It's important, so he says, so I would like to see him here.
All right, and questions?
No questions.
Okay, motion?
I move that we approve the reclassification for the assessor's office.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, item 3 is a new position in the Public Defender's Office, and this should be a temporary intern position.
Good morning. I am requesting that a temporary part-time intern position be created. I'm sure you recall that we had 3 from the budget year, and we've had a lot of good success. I've filled all 3 of those positions, but just for the summer, for the weeks in the summer. There is a salary savings in my A budget to cover this temporary position, and I have 2 qualified candidates to choose from at this point still. We've had some really good luck. I'm hiring new attorneys to start in August and 2 that just started. So it's been nice to see interest in interns, and they're very helpful in our office. They can do a lot of legal writing and free up attorney time. So that's the reason for the ask, and I'm hoping you'll approve it.
Okay, questions? Questions?
Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
No. Is this, we're using county funds for this?
Yes, that's what's been calculated.
Is there any reason why we're not using core funds?
No, I actually asked the auditor's office to tell me if we could do that, since there apparently is a lot of money left there. And she indicated that that might that I can, but that'll just be less money for rent. I think the rent could be covered out of that core grant and fund this as well. but I didn't have an exact answer on that.
Yeah, so I said that you could pay for the position with core, and that would be fine. It would just be that incremental portion less available for rent, which is not a problem. So sometimes tone is also, I guess, so if you, I meant it's okay to use core.
Yeah, I think we should be using core. There's no reason whatsoever to not use it if it's available to be used, one. And two, so what if we spend it all? We're going to spend county funds anyhow. So let's spend the grant money first, deplete it, and then go to the taxpayer second. And, so I think we need to start focusing on a policy, which I'd like to, within the county, that we start making it that we use this grant money first in all departments before we go to the taxpayers.
And the policy will have to address supplanting too, because some of our grants take that into account, so, yeah, it's not a problem.
It's all fine, but this particular grant it's an Idaho state grant. From my understanding, it has 0 strings attached to it, as long as it's being used for the public defender's office. So I say let's just use it, and we have till September 30th. We talked about this last week. We're in a time crunch now to spend money, sadly, Idaho state money. So if we can do that and put it under core, I'm completely for it because I know you need the help.
Not a
Happy to
problem,
have the position in any place just to get it.
not a problem. All right, motion?
I move that we approve the new position for the Public Defender's Office using core grant money.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Item 4, request for witness payment line item increase, prosecuting attorney, and we will send this through the business meeting consent calendar as well, because that's probably the more appropriate meeting, but this was a time-sensitive issue, so I wanted to address Prosecutor Mortensen's concerns earlier than later.
Thank you, Board. This is Stan Mortensen for the record. Just by way of a backdrop, the budget year for this year, my office was allocated or budgeted $55,000 for the criminal division for witness payments. As the Board knows, we use this money to secure expert witnesses, to have them review cases, to provide testimony, their opinions. And it's crucial when we're talking about convincing a jury that something happened. As the board knows, my office just finished a murder trial. Before the trial started, I ran the budget. My office had gone through about 34 and change, so 35,000 of the 55,000. And so we have 20,000 left. We're not going to make it till October with 20,000. Just to let the board know, my office needs to secure a witness in a different case for 14,000. We haven't received the final bill from our 5 experts for the murder trial. I can tell the board that one of those experts has sent his final bill, and it's 12,000. One of the other experts testified that the defense asked him how much he's being paid, and he anticipated his final bill being 20,000. The other 3 experts, I don't know what their final bill is, but it's quite possible it could be 20 to 40,000 each, at least for some of those. I know that one of these experts I don't have the final bill for. She's a pathologist, a former medical examiner. She had to review another medical examiner's work to give us her opinion. She had to do that in another case, and she was between 30 and 40,000 alone in that other case. And so, and then we have to talk about what money I need for the rest of the year, not just these 2 cases. And so I would love to come in here and I wanted to ask for 50,000, but after looking at this, I don't know that that's going to cut it. I would like to ask for 100,000. I think that would give me a little bit of a buffer between now and October, but I can't promise the board I won't be back. And so, again, I can't express to the board enough how crucial this is. We heard from one of the jurors already from our murder trial, and he expressed to us how important it was to have heard from our expert witnesses in rendering his guilty verdict. And so, unfortunately, this is the cost of doing business. As the board knows, my office prosecutes some very high-profile cases, child molestations, murders, but we have to have more money at the current time than we were budgeted for. And I can tell the court, with this case and with the other case I referred to, where this doctor was basically paid $30,000 to $40,000, it was directly related to having to review autopsy reports from the Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office. When we have a medical examiner render an opinion, fortunately, it's been few and far between, but when we disagree with that opinion and we have to consult experts to prove murder, it's costly. And that's kind of where we've blown our budget this year.
Okay. The amount of money that was changed from A budget to B budget to provide additional security.
Yes.
Is there still that 100,000 left?
I don't know yet. I've just reached out to the sheriff's office. What I can tell the board is I received, as of March 12th, we had about $100,000 left. We used about half of it. But through the course of the trial, security was really ramped up because they took a different approach during the trial. It was necessary. And I haven't received the final statement from that, but what I can tell the board, I don't know if you saw it in the news, the sheriff's office surveillance team caught our murder suspect at the airport. And there's no way they could have done that had we not been using this money. And so there was a lot of activity in a short period of time, but there was activity for the 2 weeks solid anyway. And so I haven't received an accounting from the sheriff's office where they're at with that. But I'd like to think there is some leftover money there.
Okay. All right. Questions?
The 35,000, is that what has been billed and paid for, or is that also include some of these outstanding bills that you've estimated for?
No, the 35 that we've spent. Those are cases where we've received final bill and we've made payment. I've got 6 witnesses here, 5 from the trial and 1 for a new case. We need to retain the 1 for 14,000, and we haven't received the final bill for the other 5. And I can promise the board we're going to go through that last $20,000.
And so, do you want up to another 50, or where's your head with this, so that, unless you want to keep coming back
Sure.
every month asking for incremental amounts?
If I ask for $50,000 and get approved $50,000, I'll probably be back next week. If I ask and get approved for $100,000, it's going to cover the trial in this new case, and I think it'll leave us a little bit extra money between now and October. But again, I'll probably be back between now and October.
You know, this is, from my perspective, the cost of doing business. Now, one of the things that I'd like to emphasize to you, among other folks, is the fact that when you need money, you come before the board. There's a lot of people that talk about how they're going to make sure that all these offices are properly funded and not increase taxes and things like that. And my take on it is that if you need the money, you should be prepared to make the case as to why people's taxes need to go up. Now, this is clearly the cost of doing business. And I think you do need the money if you're going to be able to effectively prosecute. But I think it's important to understand that it's not just us that you have to come to the money, come to us to get that money. It's also the taxpayers, because we have to go to them. And that largely is the reason why, if anyone were to ask me, that commissioners have very short lifespans compared to other elected officials. And so I think it's just real important that that case be made when the money is needed, so that the public really understands that this isn't, just raising your taxes and making your life miserable from a taxpayer's perspective, but this is the cost of a growing community. And if we're going to be able to effectively provide these services, then the elected officials who need this money should be able to reasonably put together an argument as to why this is happening. So I'm 1,000% behind
I couldn't agree
what
more.
you need.
And what I've thought about doing is potentially a press release at some point during the year and to give the public an accounting as to, look at these witnesses I've had to retain and look how much we spent to secure convictions in these cases. That way the public knows what's happening.
They should, and it probably will take a lot more than a press release, given the
Sure.
the immense circulation of our paper of record. So how do we proceed here? Because
Well, and there's two ways to do this, talking about future budget years. I think we've been very conservative over the years. As the board knows, we were budgeted 55,000. That was a slight increase from last year. There's two ways to do this. We can budget conservatively, and then if and when I need to exceed the budget, I come before the board once, twice, maybe 3 times a year. Or when it comes to a new budget year, we can just budget a whole lot more money, and then I spend it when I need it without having to go before the board, and then whatever's left is left. I understand the hesitation in doing that, but what I can tell the board is, when I've got $20,000 left, it looks like that money can go a long way. But sometimes I need to secure these people now. I can't wait till the next board meeting. And it's a big juggling act.
Well, I have confidence in Prosecutor Mortensen that he will use the money appropriately for witnesses and not process serving this board or any other types of expenses. So if you can give us an assurance that you will spend that money, I'm happy to allocate a larger portion to keep you from have to come back before us.
And you have my assurance, but what I will do, not only to the board and to the public, I'm working on, like I said, an accounting. I would like the board and the people to see not only where we're spending this money, but that it's effective. We are receiving convictions in these cases. We're not gambling and rolling the dice and not getting convictions. We're accurate in our assessments as attorneys with how we spend this money.
And I'm fine with it if we can put whatever's remainder from the security detail
Sure.
towards this, and then the rest from fund balance, I think, is reasonable, because if you don't use it, then it'll just stay in fund balance. So,
So Barry would always ask for this type of thing from contingency.
oh, yeah.
We don't know yet how much will be left, because that depend, from the security money, because it just goes off of the officers' timesheets every payroll.
Right.
That's when we have the new report. So, and that money didn't get moved from the prosecutor's budget to the sheriff.
Okay.
We're just directly pulling those officers' overtime from the prosecutor's budget.
Okay.
So he's not gonna need to be made whole in any way there.
Right. So justice contingency is actually a
Yes,
great
that would be
location
the
for it.
cleanest
Yeah.
option.
And we haven't used any justice contingency
We
yet?
have not.
That's
Yeah.
great. So it does require, not a majority, it
All
does
three.
require the full board. So if you're fine with that, then that's a great location. Thank you, Brandy.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, motion?
This is coming from the Justice Contingency.
Yes.
I move that we approve the request for witness payments and the line item increases with the prosecuting attorney to come from the Justice Contingency Fund,
In the amount of 100,000.
the amount of $100,000.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Okay, item 5, change of use for workload funds to offset employee accrual payouts. And Ms. Falcon?
Brandy Falcon for the record. So this has been an ongoing conversation as we approach the end of our fiscal year 2024, which is the last year we'll have the public defender as part of the county's budget. We're trying to figure out ways to use up our remaining grant money. So one of the things that we've talked about is potentially being able to use remaining workload grant funds to help offset the cost of the employee accrual payouts at the end of the year when the employees leave. So there was pending legislation, I don't know if it has gotten approved yet, that we would pay out 40 hours of the employee's accruals to the state public defender's office, and then the remainder gets paid to the employee individually. So right now, that liability for Kootenai County is over $430,000, and it just keeps growing. So by the end of the year, it could be $500,000. So I would like to request from the PDC that they allow us to use any leftover money we have at the end of the year to offset that cost. I can read to you, the PDC requires we submit a change of use request form, which is this. I can read to you kind of what I put in here as my narrative to the PDC. All counties are required to pay out all public defender employees' sick and vacation accruals to the employee in the state of Idaho at 10/1/24. Currently, this amount is almost $500,000 for Kootenai County. We are requesting to be able to utilize any remaining FY23 and FY24 workload funds as of 9/30/24 to help offset this expense. The funds would be paid to the state public defender's office and public defense employees once the Kootenai County Public Defender's Office transitions to the state at 10/1/24. This would help alleviate the use of fund balance for this expense and would still be using the funds for a public defense-related expense. In addition, these funds would be remitted to a state agency and public defense employees rather than kept in the county's possession. This request would allow the Public Defender's Office to continue to spend workload funds for the remainder of FY24, and anything left over at 9/30/24 is what we are requesting to utilize for employee accrual payouts. Ideally, we would really like to be able to use these remaining funds to help offset the costs of employee accruals for all public defender employees that transition to the state public defender's office. However, if the commission is unwilling to consider this, then we would request that we can at least use remaining funds to help pay for the accrual payouts of workload funded employees. So the PDC just requested that I make sure the public defender's office had no pending change of use forms, which they did confirm. And so now it just requires commissioner signatures, and then the clerk will sign and we can submit it to the PDC.
Okay.
And we're not impeding on the public defender's operations as long as they're part of the county. This would be what's remaining at the end of the year.
Questions, Bill? Bruce?
I think it's great. Thank you.
All right, motion.
I move that we approve the change of use for workload funds to offset employee accrual payouts.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, public comment. Anyone on the line, Jonathan? Nope. Okay, 10:33, meeting adjourned. Thank you.